if you are just a person who wants to communicate ideas, you don't give a shit about how they look. Yeah, I would say even if you go super fancy and make like extreme art out of your communicative visual, I would say it's less clear than somebody would just draw, the circles and draw everything with a marker in super simple, plain style. So the communication still is there with the same style. Just one style will maybe get more you design opportunities and get you hired and whatever. But if you only want to communicate ideas, feel free to keep it as ugly and scrappy as you want. I'm not a fan of these maybe affirmations where you stand in front of the mirror and say like, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. But I think the words believe in your abilities to figure things out holds this tremendous power because you're not lying to yourself. Like, I can go back in history. There was a time when I was learning how to drive, and I was at the steering wheel and like, holy crap, like I'm not sure what to do here. This is like, I will never learn this. And there's so many things from the past where you have felt those moments, but you tried and you learned, and now are you freaking driving and eating a hot dog, and in the other hand you have a smartphone, Use that proof, from the past and believe in your abilities that you can figure this new thing out as well. Mm-hmm.
加速中，请握扶手，站稳踏阶。The escalator is speeding up. Please hold the handrail and stand forward.
Hi， 我是 Jackie， 欢迎收听 TMT 走左边，让我们一起自我成长，离开舒适圈，做最好的自己，更好的我们。这一期访问是一个我非常非常喜欢，然后已经追踪很久的创作者，叫做 Janis Ozolins， 然后他是一个在自媒体上做很多用很简单的视觉去表达很经典的理念的一个视觉艺术家跟创作者。那他以前在帮纳瓦尔或是一些像 Adam Grant 这些我很喜欢的作家的人物做一些很多不同的插画的时候，就开始追踪他。然后这时候收到 Play 的邀请合作，去访问他，我非常非常的兴奋，非常非常开心的机会访问，本来就很有兴趣，很喜欢的一个创作者。那这集聊下来，也觉得哇，他真的是一个非常 chill， 然后非常有趣。很好聊的一个创作者。那他聊他这4年下来，每天4点半起床，在全职工作之下，尝试各种不同的创作 ，YouTube 啊、拍片啊、Podcast 啊、写作都不成功，到后来怎么样找到自己专属的这个小赛道，然后现在帮很多知名的作家做一些艺术插画。那他课程也教大家怎么样在没有任何艺术背景，然后把简单的理念用简单的方式呈现来表达、来沟通。那我们聊他就是怎么样找到自己的赛道之后呢？还有一些他以前做过的一些视觉对我人生很大的影响，像是 Do it scared， 就算恐惧还是可以做，带着恐惧去做也比不做还要好。那怎么样克服他自己的完美主义，然后怎么样我们也讲就是社群媒体上怎么样去成长，怎么样去开发出自己的一个独特的风格，跟找到自己最好的受众。那我最喜欢他最后说的一句话就是，我们可以一直在那边说自己可以，自己很棒很棒，但是其实最重要的是我们要告诉自己，我们相信自己有能力去解决任何问题，比起我们在那边空想还要有价值很多。那在节目开始之前呢，想再跟大家分享我们的淀粉的自我成长大家庭，我们集结一群想要自我成长的好伙伴，在我们的社群里，我们每个月大概20-30几场活动，很多都淀粉自己发起，然后包括各种兴趣目标跟知识学习，大家彼此鼓励分享。像我们这个礼拜的活动就有11号有个台北路跑实体的，然后12号有线上的英文口说练习，英文聊聊。那同天晚上12号有个淀粉的线上迎新欢迎会，那如果参加淀粉很适合这个礼拜加入，刚好可以参加到礼拜5的迎新欢迎会，可以认识到很多跟你同一批加入的淀粉。那14号呢又有个阅读聊天室，大家要线上在礼拜天晚上用语音交流，分享一些最近看的书。那也谢谢这个礼拜加入的新淀粉们，有 Amanda、Iris、钟权、Angela、Jeff、Keo、Ringo、玉文、Ellie 跟 Tony， 谢谢你们的加入跟谢谢你们支持，希望在淀粉自我成长大家庭里可以找到自己的伙伴，也找到更多自我成长的方向养分。那明年我们会有全新计划，会是12个月，每个月我会用个不同的书跟大家分享，线上跟他讨论这本书对我自我成长什么很大的影响，然后会有帮大家分组，然后做问卷，然后讨论，希望 12个月下来可以帮助大家在自我成长上有最大化的帮助，我们会帮助大家找到自己的自我成长的指南针，你的核心价值、核心原则跟核心使命。那希望这个指南针不是只有在明年有用，而是你这一辈子都可以给你人生自我成长有一个核心的一个方向跟不会迷路的一个指南针。也希望淀粉这样子一群人可以给你在低潮失落的时候有人可以接住你，然后有人可以给你鼓励陪伴，也给你更多的养分。所以我们明年会做一批涨价，因为会做更多的企划，所以大家如果想加入可以趁今年维持一样的价钱，那我们一起在2025的时候一起来蓄势待发，准备迎接2026在12月22号会有第一场的一个启动说明会，跟大家分享我们2026要怎么样去帮助大家最大化的自我成长。那欢迎加入我们，那我们一起来迎接2026，是我们成长最多，也是我们人生我知道最棒的一年。OK， 那我们开始今天跟 Janis 的访谈。补充一点，这一集是全英文的，所以想要看字幕的朋友们，我们会有中英字幕在 Spotify 跟 YouTube 上面。OK， 那我们开始今天精彩跟 Janis 的访谈 ，Let's go。嗨，我是 Jackie， 欢迎收听电梯走左边，让我们一起自我成长，离开舒适圈，做最好自己，更好的我们。Today, it's my super pleasure to welcome Janis Ozolins to the podcast. So Janis is a founder of Explain Ideas Visually, a course, a community where creators, coaches, artists, non-artists learn to turn ideas into memorable images, visuals that really are simple and catch your attention and help you build a better communication skill in life. And so what Janis does is he explains ideas visually and then the intersection of art, tech, and business. And some of the really big names such as Naval, Adam Grant all shared his work. And I'm actually a huge fan of Janis since a long time ago. I've been following your stuff for a while now. And I remember the first time I saw it, I think it probably was Naval, your work with Naval, and just seeing how simple the ideas were, how great the visuals, you're able to communicate really deep and profound ideas in such the utmost simplicity way, which is such an art, right? Because it's really hard to, it takes a lot of effort to make it look effortless, is what they say. And you also have a very interesting background. You were doing product sales, service delivery manager, IT project manager before becoming a content creator in 2021. So you've gone through that journey, and I want to ask you all about how you kind of became this content creator, how you got into the visual storytelling. And before we get started, for people who want to look at Janis' work, you can follow him on Instagram. It's JAOZOLINS. All of this will be on the show notes. And then he has a newsletter on ozo.art and Ozolins Janis on Substack, and also on Threads. It's JAOZOLINS. It'll be all in the show notes. So yeah, welcome Janis. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Jackie, for the very warm intro. I'm not sure what to do with all of this praise, so thank you very much. Good, very much looking forward to chat with you. I'm sure this is going to be great. Happy to go in all the places up and about and explore this topic and whatever your audience might be interested in. So, and you, of course. So, yeah, let's dive in.
Amazing. Yeah, to begin, I'm curious, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
Family, freedom, curiosity, I would say. There's like all the stuff I do essentially, I want to live a good life, I have 2 kids, a wife, I love family stuff. I'm definitely not into like building some crazy next unicorn business or anything like that, It was also one of the reasons kind of why I left the corporate world, because it just didn't align. So that's where kind of the freedom part comes in as well. Because I really feel like I want to get to a place where every day I wake up and like I do what I want with whom I want, and if I feel like not working that day, that's great as well. So I would say those are my like 3 things. I'm always like thinking about, curiosity, creativity, where's the line? But I would say like curiosity is even more than creativity. I think a lot of people who see my work, they're like, oh my God, this is so insanely creative. But I think when you really understand like the process behind it, it's more of a like process than just exploring your creativity and stitching things together. Then it's like art, which I actually have found from your like paintings and stuff. I saw them, so it was absolutely sick skills. So you're the artist here, not me. I'm using visuals to communicate ideas. You can actually create something like super sick and beautiful.
Wow, thank you for also looking at my stuff a little bit even. Really appreciate that. Yeah, so I took your entire course this past week. And then I actually started like drawing stuff, and like trying to implement your process. And then I'm thinking, yeah, like this could be really effective in terms of like marketing, right? Like, you know, I have a podcast channel. How do I communicate some of these ideas I want to convey in really simple graphics? And I actually start drawing with a pen and pencil, and I start drawing on like digital tools. I'm like, wow, these could make some really cool graphics. And it really isn't about like being so aesthetically, you know, capable, but it's just like, how do you communicate an idea in a simple way?
Exactly. It actually like a few days ago I started to explore like potentially maybe like a new business opportunity in terms of like just another fork of freelance I do, because overall most of the time I like illustrate books, you know, for some authors which you mentioned. That's been good fun and interesting. But I really like, there is one guy who teaches copywriting. I think his name is Naval Medora. And I know he has these extremely quirky illustrations as well. Extremely ugly, like 5-year-old type of illustrations, but he uses them also just to communicate stuff. And he has these tremendously nice sales emails, which are like 80% visuals, like one sentence, a visual, and he kind of drives the story through visuals. So I'm starting to think about creating something like that for me and just exploring that field. And I feel it could be like potentially an interesting, like, you know, productized service as well, where you do this stuff for like, you know, companies to apply and sales letters and stuff. I'm not sure. It's like a new place, but I'm sure this kind of skill set can be applied there as well. So yeah, just a random tangent I went from what you said.
No, I think if I were starting a business and I had like my mission, my core values, and I want to be able to communicate that effectively to my entire company, top to bottom, like I think I will pay for that for sure. Right, because all the companies have this big mission, and then you have values, and you try to like tell your employees again once after another, but it doesn't stick, right? Because it's words, and people just read it, and then like, they go somewhere else. But when you have the visuals, and then it becomes really easy for them to understand, remember.
Yeah, what I think works with visuals in any type of like content creation, I think is like, and this is, I think, part of my kind of breakthrough in the content creation. We're gonna go like back to the story, how I actually started everything and whatever. But with visuals, it was I tried to be like a content creator for a while, and like everything felt like an uphill battle. You know, I tried YouTube, I tried podcasting, I tried writing. Like I never been a big writer. I didn't read books, so I was like, this is just hard, because I had like 9 to 5, you know, kids on the way, trying to build a house, like a lot of things were on my plate. And at the same time, I tried to explore this, you know, what could be my online business venture. But when I started to do visuals, and of course, I'm like, nobody knows who I am. I have zero credibility. I'm not some like Tim Ferriss or Naval or pick your favorite influencer who will like where people will just jump in and read whatever you write, you know, in some super long WordPress blog. But when you do these visuals, like often people don't even question your credibility. They just, this is so simple. It has so few words that I might as well digest this information. I might as well digest this idea. And they're like, okay, that's cool. Thanks for giving me this idea, you know, in 2-3 seconds, you know, and then that's how kind of word spreads through visuals. And I think where there is a lot of power that you can communicate. Of course, not all ideas. It's very hard to like write a biography, you know, through visuals, but for certain ideas, you can really like, it's like a shortcut to people's brains.
Yeah, 100%. I saw you work with like Sean Puri, Jefferson Fisher, and Matt Davila, Anna Farraga, a lot of big names. And yeah, when I took the course, I really took away like the power of simplicity, power of ideas, and also I really like what you said about respecting your audience's attention and time. Like when you simplify that email graphics into like looking at that original one, like that's pretty simple already, right? That's like, yeah, like that's great. But you simplified it even more down to the very essence. I think that shows like very strong like first principles thinking, right? You're able to think in very fundamental ways, and that kind of requires really deep understanding and really deep profound thoughts into simplifying the idea all the way down to the essence. So I think that's a very impressive skill. Yeah.
But yeah, well, thanks for the compliment. Of course, I'm sure I have some maybe more skills than some others, but I would say it's very much like, it's, of course, with some visuals, and the more you do, the easier it becomes. But for some visuals, you can come up very quickly. But for some visuals, it's same like, you know, I don't know, maybe a lot of people in your audience write, you know, and you know, it's not like you just write and it's a freaking gold right away. It's not like you edit, you wrestle with those sentences, you move things around. It's like, this is not making sense. And it takes time. And it's same with visuals. You kind of bounce things around, you change words, you change metaphors. This is not really connecting. And then at the end, you find this flow and it clicks. Or very often in your brain, you have, oh, this is going to be a sick idea. And then you put it on the paper and this doesn't make sense. Oh, I don't believe it, and then you start to wrestle again. And it's like the same. It's like with journaling, you just crystallize your thinking, your thoughts. It's just another form of like thinking through things, same as with writing. But just to me, like creating visuals is so much more interesting and fun because it's like you can go on the whiteboard and, map things around, play with sticky notes. With writing, often people associate this with this grueling process where you just sit and type. Of course, not for everybody, but at least for me, like this is just a lot more interesting and dynamic, I guess.
Yeah, I remember Jeff Bezos used to say that if you can't explain something on a whiteboard, you don't understand it. And I really took that to heart. Let's go through your story a little bit. I know you mentioned you used to wake up at 4:30 a.m. during your 9 to 5 to work on freelancing. And, looking at your history, like you were doing IT project manager and you mentioned to YouTube writing and to a creator. How did you get interested in creating visuals to begin with? Were you always like a visual person? Because your background, I didn't see, it wasn't like a visual background.
No, I don't really come from a design background. And I think that's one of the beauty and why a lot of people resonate. And I really stand by these words that no design background to learn this. You don't need to be an artist to learn this. Like I'm living proof of that. And very many of my students, well, some of the most successful students actually are like with zero background. They never intended to do this. They just kind of gave it a try and found it very fulfilling, same as me. But yeah, going kind of back to the story, how I actually got curious, it initially started with just the desire to like build some sort of online business, have this independence, because I was like in the regular corporate world, working in big corporate firms, initially doing some more technical IT stuff. Then I moved into like more manager positions, but didn't really enjoy it. And there was a time when I felt tremendously kind of stuck and just like, I don't know what to do with my life. And I remember one of my friends, I didn't have any higher education or anything like that. And one of my colleagues said like, hey, do you want to go to and learn business psychology after work? I was like, I don't know, business psychology, a bit of business, a bit of psychology. I don't really know what to do with my life. Sounds useful, whatever. Fuck it, let's go. Let's do this thing. So I went there, learned only for like a year or two, but there was one class where basically the assignment was, hey class, next week you need to come and present a business idea. And I don't know what happened in my brain, but that little constraint, I said like, Janis, you have been this entrepreneur whole your life, big talk, but no action, oh, I will do this, I will do that, but you don't do shit. You just talk big. And when I got that assignment, there was some switch in my head. I said, Janis, you will figure out like a business idea and present to the class next week something that is real, something that is not like delusional, something you can start right now with all your other obligations, something you can start now without having any extra funding, something you can actually do. And when I did that research, that led me to discovering, this online business. I started to read about all these people who like travel the world and live from their laptops and stuff. And I was like, holy crap, like I want some of that. That sounds great. So it doesn't really matter what business idea was. I think something related to the Pinterest. I had no clue. I was in this industry like zero. I didn't know anything. That was like 9 years ago from this moment, I would say. And yeah, that basically kicked off the engine. And then I read the listen to the 4-hour work week, and that absolutely I remember like 2 hours into that book, I was standing in my living room and I was like, holy shit, Janis, you've been such an idiot. And I just basically I know there's this great artist and like writer Tim Urban from Wait But Why. Maybe some of you know him. And he had this really nice illustration of like this, I think it's called the grown-up mountain or something like that. But the illustration basically shows how a lot of like early 20-year-olds are tremendously like delusional and arrogant and think that they know shit about life. And then there is a moment when you realize that you don't know shit and you kind of fall down to the mountain and you're like, okay, it's time to grow up, it's time to learn, and it's time to actually develop. And that was kind of my moment in that 4-Hour Workweek book when I started to like question everything I thought is real and whatever. And I just, it sent me to massive like self-development rabbit hole, listened to tons of books, started to explore a lot of ideas. And then there was basically 4-year period where, as I said, I tried YouTube, various different businesses, nothing, zero audience, zero revenue, absolutely nothing. And probably your listeners know James Clear, and you as well, the Atomic Habit guy.
Yeah.
And once I was reading his blog, and as I said, I'm not a big reader. I'm like, oh, this is a bunch of text. I just want to skip it, you know. And sometimes in his articles, he uses illustrations. And I was like stopping at that illustration, and I was like, damn, I look at this illustration and I understand what he wants to say. I don't need to read all that like stuff which he have written there. Like, I get this. And that was like the first moment when I started to get curious about the visuals. And then there's another guy called Jack Butcher who is behind Visualize Value. He's like a lot in the crypto space as well, and he makes these tremendously simple black and white illustrations. He's like more on the artsy side and a bit more mystical than like clarity, but like awesome dude. And he was illustrating a lot of Naval's ideas as well at the time. He was basically taking his whole thread of how to get rich without getting lucky from Naval, like super awesome thread. I highly recommend everybody reads it. And basically, the bottom line is that Jack guy, he had built a business around visuals only. And that broke my frame for the first time, where I always felt that, as James Clear used visuals, you know, as like a supplementary piece for his blog. But that this Jack guy, it was basically his whole business, his whole way of communication. And I was like, damn, you know, maybe it can be like a full-time thing. So that's when I leaned in fully to the visuals and decided like, I want to explore this craft as well. And I basically, I think at the end of 2020, I started to create visuals. Very quickly on Twitter, I started to gain some momentum, and already like 2, 3, 4 months in, I had like consistent growth, a lot of like feedback and stuff, which I like previously didn't had at all. No revenue, no audience. I'm just like working in a cave, like absolutely clueless. And the only thing that motivates me is all these freaking influencers from the audio books and podcasts and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm sure there is a way how to figure this shit out. But like none of my friends do this. I was like absolutely lone wolf, like trying to figure this shit out. And people like you who make podcasts and create audiobooks were the only ones who kind of kept me motivated. But yeah, the visuals clicked, you know, some freelance gigs started to roll in. A lot of people asked like, how the hell do you do this? This is awesome. Then I made the course, you know, and kind of the rest is history. The growth started to compound in all the channels. And yeah, that's pretty much been ever since. That's the kind of the initial story.
You know, you used to wake up really early, so you actually grind it out, you know, while doing your full time. And I heard you say this somewhere that there's not a lot of lazy people, just people who don't know what they want. And how does it feel to be working on something you love, to have that work on something so passionately? Does it feel like freedom or?
I think it's just if I wake up in the morning and if I can do anything I want, sure, there will be some days where I just want to go and hit the waves and surf and play with my kids and absolutely do nothing, or maybe watch Netflix. But honestly, most days I want to work. I love this stuff. I want to take in interesting ideas, listen to interesting people, you know, try to digest them, create visuals, like talk things through, you know. I love to write my newsletter to people. I love to create these visuals. It's tremendously, there's just intrinsic motivation is off the charts, you know. So that's the difference. I've been in the corporate world where you just drag yourself to the work, you know, you do it mostly for the paycheck to bring the bills. Yeah. Of course, it's not all doom and gloom, and like I'm not trashing the corporate world. Like there's so much benefit to it. And I would say like early in my career, I was first few years in the corporate world, I was very happy, you know, you get all these business trips and this and that and the parties. It's awesome, you know, but when now I have family and everything and I'm kind of try to settle down a bit more, you know, and have more freedom. It was definitely not the recipe for me. And now when I see that it can actually be a path for you, it's amazing. It's the best thing ever. But I'm not there. Like there have been years where I'm like, not years, but maybe months where it's like going super good and then like, you know, need to rack up some freelance to kind of bring more money in. So I'm not there. I'm like, you know, with the creator you can relate. The income can be like this, one month you feel like you're on the top of the world, the other month like, holy shit, we brought in less money than it's our expenses. So it's a roller coaster, and I guess for the past 6 months, I try to embrace a little bit more the business mindset, because I think I'm like good at like content creation and this creativity and being whatever, this like nice, humble guy, helping others out. But the business side of things is not, I think, my strong pursuit. So I try to kind of lean into more like try to develop systems, try to be a little bit more smart with like business and, whatever. Yeah, that's what's up.
I love that. I'd love to dive deeper into that. This is maybe an unexpected tangent, but I feel like I'm similar to you. I love being creative. I love helping other people. I just love having a good time and like, enjoying myself doing things I love. But when it comes to like, okay, you got to take care of the, the bills and people you hire and like keeping things sustainable and like it's kind of hard to force yourself into that when you're not that, right? Like, how do you do that? What did you learn in the past 6 months?
Well, I don't know. I guess we can go, honestly, first things that comes to mind is how, like I said, I got this desire, to build this online business because I felt like, wow, this is possible. Because previously when I was working in the corporate world, and just kind of talk big and do nothing, I had this tremendous disconnection. There is me, the regular person who works at the job and do like the default path, as everybody works and stuff. And then there are these entrepreneurs, and there is like, I had no connection to that. I didn't know anybody who was like what I wanted. I didn't like this thought like it's me and it's them, like different people. And when I started to explore that self-development and listen to Tim Ferriss and start to listen to even like whatever Steve Jobs biographies, and when you hear the stories, like those are not different people. Yes, okay, maybe Steve Jobs is a bad example, or like Elon Musk, or all these like insane people, But pick like regular business people, and you're just, oh my God, the story is so similar, and like in some areas I feel like I'm smarter and more gifted, than them, and I just like the difference is that they kind of kept going and you just don't. So, but you can't ride only with that motivation. As I said, like I quit a lot of things. I tried YouTube, I tried this and that, and a lot of them felt like uphill battle, along with all the other obligations. But with visuals, what happened, it was actually very fun because like 80% of the work is actually just, you can go about your day, think about ideas, listen to a podcast, take a note, Then I wake up 4:30 in the morning, when I had my first kid, I kind of like quit. It was actually a fun story where I said to myself that I will quit alcohol until I will make $10,000 from my side hustle. That was like actually a fun goal. And spoiler alert, I didn't drink, I think, for like 3.5 years or something like that. So it took that long, but it was an interesting challenge. But what that helped, when you don't watch Netflix in the evening and whatever. I had a young kid, so sleep is like crazy at that time. So I went to bed really early, with my wife, didn't watch Netflix, didn't drink anything. So I was able kind of to wake up at 4:30. I don't recommend to wake up at 4:30 if you go to bed at 12. It's probably not a good idea. But if you get into bed at like 9:30, it's good. I feel great. So I wake up in those mornings and I kind of sketched out the content, sketched out the ideas, and I was at least having this momentum, every single day I was shipping something and the audience grew and kind of it took from there. But all those 4 years previously, I think another like thing here, I don't think I'm like super disciplined or whatever. I said like it was very fun for me. This desire was cool and I saw all these interesting online businesses, and what I allowed myself, I was working a 9 to 5. And in those mornings, in those spare times, I was doing only things I found extremely like fulfilling and interesting. Now I do enjoy like vibe coding, I love to build now my own websites, with Cursor and stuff. And like, I don't code. I don't know how to code, but like I know a little bit, just to get by with like Cursor and stuff. But again, it's fun for me. So I allowed myself to explore these fun things. So I think it's having the money pressure really sucks when it comes to creating like a creative business you love. At least in my opinion, I think it's not cool. It's nice to have savings. It's nice to have a 9 to 5 job. I think one mistake which I made actually in 9 to 5, I was trying kind of to climb the corporate ladder and took on more responsibility. Though my goal was to build this creative business, and that created tremendous amount of stress for me. The smarter path would be stay in the corporate job where you're like super comfortable, can like kind of slack off, and get by and get the bill done, and on the side put all that other energy into this like fun stuff, trying to build your hustle on the side, and then quit the 9 to 5. So I think I made a mistake there, just kind of trying basically to not feeling fulfilled in corporate world and thinking that creative work will kind of release me from that, which was true. But at the same time, having the idea, maybe changing roles in the corporate world will do the same. But it actually did the opposite. I was like stressed to the, yeah. Okay, I went to a lot of tangents. We can go wherever you want, but.
That was awesome. So you've been creating for 9 years, and then you said 4 years of that was like kind of figuring things out, and you're doing that while doing a full-time job, and then you quit to do content full-time like 5 years ago, right? So it's basically 9 years and half and half.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Take me back to like when you saw all those cool visuals, and like, because you had no visual background. So did you just like watch a tutorial on Figma and then be like, okay, let me figure out how to do this, and then start having fun?
No, I didn't even watch tutorials. I think, I would say I was good with the internet and always like tinkering with computer, So it wasn't like I opened some design tool and felt like, oh my God, this is absolutely crazy. I wasn't that bad. Of course, there wasn't tools like Canva, where you can now go in and basically get everything very quickly. So it was just, I kind of explored, tinkered around. And I was very drawn mostly to the simple style of visuals, so there's not much going on. Still to this day, like, I use Figma, but I basically use like maybe 5 features that Figma offers, I use the basic stuff. I don't use any of the like fancy things. Like if you ask me, hey, Janis, teach me Figma. Well, I can teach you this, which is I do, but I can't go like to the next level and like do all this crazy UX things or whatever. So yeah, just it was kind of exploration and trial and error and stuff. And of course, these days it's so much more easier with like everything that we have in terms of tools, but it was just tinkering around. But again, the focus mostly was on ideas. That was a very important point. And I think a mistake, which I definitely can see in those early days, which is one of the most common things I say to students, and most common thing which I say in the feedback sessions, is that people prioritize cleverness over clarity. I don't know what happens, but when it comes to visuals, people they have this tremendous desire to go extremely fancy and like do some shit which doesn't really make sense and just confuse you from the message that you are trying to deliver. So a big part of it is, no, let's just break it down. This is adding clutter. It's not saying anything, If you are willing to sacrifice like clarity for your vibes or whatever, sure, you can leave it, but I would really recommend to do this if you want to really be clear and communicate the idea like that.
Did you mean prioritize clarity over cleverness?
Prioritize clarity. Yeah, clarity. So you're clear, you're making the point, but a lot of people, they will add some fancy like flowers and shit, which doesn't maybe make sense for the idea. It's just more information for the audience to digest, and they are just like more scratching heads and like trying to think what you're trying to say here. And that was something I did a lot as well, and I kind of learned the hard way early on.
I love that. Yeah. When you're doing all these different, because I think 4 years, 5 years of like creating, but not seeing traction, that's tough, right? Like you're doing like writing, YouTube, all this other stuff. How did you keep going? At any point did you want to like give up or like,
I think
succumb to the corporate?
Yeah. No, I think there's few things that comes to mind. And I think one of them is you need to have like a good vision. And I think I had a good vision. And my vision was vague in a sense. I want to have this online business where, I'm my own boss and I have the freedom and I can work from anywhere I want, have this laptop lifestyle. That was the vision. I was not saying that I will get there by building this software product, which will have these whatever features and I will serve these customers. I think when you give yourself these tremendously specific goals, and I know there's like some people will argue against me, and I think it's fine, the context matters, but just if I would at that time put myself, I will build this specific business, or I will do YouTube until it will work out, I would probably quit during those 4 years because I was felt that it's like miserable and it's not interesting. But I had this vision, but how I will get to that vision, I was very flexible. So I really allowed myself to ride on that intrinsic motivation. I felt like doing YouTube. Let's buy gear. Not a smart idea. Spent like 5K on gear, which I later sold for like half a price, after 7 videos. But whatever, I did it, got the gear, filmed some videos, thought I will be the next Matt Diavella. Felt like, holy crap, this is not sustainable. No freaking way. Like, I do enjoy creating videos. I think it could be a fun hobby for me at some point, but like I felt I can't sustain this. So I quitted that, figured out something else. So the next shiny object, again, lean into that. So it's kind of counterintuitive advice, I think, which a lot of people say. But again, if I'm living my life, I have my job, why I can't try to build like a lifestyle business on the side and really like ride on that intrinsic motivation? Of course, like maybe you will never make it if you quit all the time. And I would agree, you need to persist to something. But I think to get and figure out the thing which you really want, there is you can't think your way there. Like you just need to try things and see for yourself. And like the process of elimination was how I at least got to my, at the beginning, if you would say I will draw like visuals and explain ideas visually and like Adam Grant will license them and like one of the most popular communication experts will hire me to illustrate his book, no fucking way. Like there's no chance for something like that. But the way how I got there was just like twinkling and having fun. So it was just all about riding that intrinsic motivation. It didn't felt like a grind, It was fun. Some people sit down and they watch Netflix, but get yourself this nice vision of the future and understand that your way to that future might not only be like miserable and hard, etc., etc. There can be like a fun path. I'm not saying that all road will be like littered with roses, but it's not as grim as some people makes it look as well.
Yeah. When you took that step on becoming a creator full time, I know you value freedom a lot, and you also value family a lot. When it comes to having a family, right, there's a lot of responsibilities, a lot of financial pressure, and taking that leap into the creator world full time is a big leap. Like we talked about earlier, we all know that could be really unstable at times. Do you feel, since freedom is so important to you, right, and I know one of my favorite graphics from you is if you're scared, do it scared. I think that is just brilliant. And I actually, I look at that a lot actually when I need, motivation. So it's been really helpful to me. So thank you for that. How did you feel about it? Was that step kind of like a do it scared for you?
It's interesting because the reason why I quit my 9 to 5 was because of my wife. And because in my mind, I had like, there's no chance I'm quitting my 9 to 5. I need to like earn the money, make a business here on the side, and then I will only dare to quit my job, as we had the mortgage for the house, there's like stuff going on, etc. I was like, there's no freaking way. But when I was in my last job, it was quite stressful. I was like, my wife said like, you are chill guy. You are usually not stressed, but like in this work, you're fucking like just not great, Comes back red from the meetings and just like, oh, I can't take this anymore. So it was a hard 9 to 5, at least for me, and it was around, I think, 6 months since I started to create visuals and since I started to gain some momentum. At that point, I had made still like $0 because one person had reached out to me like in DMs, can I do this for him? But he had like very specific requirements, and I said like, now it sounds like you more want a designer. I'm not the person, I make these concepts. I don't like actually like do some super fancy design if that's your thing. So I said no to that. But since there was some audience growth and my wife saw that I was like quite stressed and stuff, she said like, let's sit down and let's calculate everything, because we had one kid already and then the second kid was kind of in the making at that time. And she was working as well, but she was about to go to her like paternity leave. Basically what we did, we took like a spreadsheet and we calculated like okay, with like all the government support that we get from like kids, you know, and like then if I quit job, you know, I get like government support for a certain amount of time, etc., etc. And with our savings, like if we don't increase our like lifestyle costs, you know, we can maintain this for like 2 years or something. And like when we kind of put that on the plate, I was like, that actually doesn't sound that like 2 years is a lot of time. And like I'm starting to gain some momentum. I have still no clue if this will turn out to be a business or no. But like we thought like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? I was like kind of working in IT as a project manager, you know, it's not like I was burning bridges or anything. So I thought maybe worst case scenario, I can go back if this doesn't work. But that was the conversation we had. We kind of looked at the numbers, and she said like, "Fuck it, you know, let's do this." And I was like, "Okay." So I submitted the papers, and the rest is history. Basically, I still remember there was this Sean Puri. You know, I told you about the Jack Butcher who does like the black and white illustrations, and he was like very famous on Twitter and stuff, and like still is. And Sean Puri is the host of My First Million, like big deal entrepreneur from San Francisco as well. And he basically, a few months later after I quit my job, he wrote in Twitter, hey, who is the next Jack Butcher in terms of creating visuals? Because he knew Jack Butcher, he knew he's like a big deal, but he knew he's unhireable, you know, that he's made it already so big that you can't hire him to do visuals. And like a lot of people jumped in the comments and like mentioned my name, and I was like tremendously humbled by that. First of all, like there's these random people just shout you out to get hired. And basically that Sean Puri guy asked Jack Butcher to warm intro him to me like in the DMs. So it was like So it was just like, what the hell is going on? I'm this fucking random dude in Latvia creating these illustrations, and these like freaking icons are reaching out in my DMs with like a pitch. And I still remember like Sean explained what he needs to do. He was like building a writing course. So he needed like illustrations for the slides, and he wanted to hire me like part-time to do the slides and stuff and work with his team. Mm-hmm. And he basically asked for a quote. I remembered, okay, this is like a 3-week commitment part-time, kinda. I have no idea what to expect or whatever, but just I want to close this deal because this is insane. And I remember like, I'm from Latvia. There's like not big salaries. Like it's not huge. It's not huge. But I know like this dude, he's like a millionaire from San Francisco. So I just like go to Google. I try to research like design prices and designer salaries or something in San Francisco. So I remembered I sent him 10K or 8K, no, or 9K. I didn't remember exactly what I sent him, but something close, I think, to 10K USD, which was an insane amount of money. It's like 3 months salary for me in Latvia. And I remember he sent like, it's a little bit over our budget. How about this price? And that price was still like it was just like 15 or 10% less. I was like, yeah, deal. Like this is good. So
and you started drinking again. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
No, not done yet. Not done yet. It was still not 10K. It was still not 10K. I think it was when I launched my own course. Not now with the press play, but previously. So yeah, that was like kind of initially my first deal. It was all amazing experience. Gave a lot of motivation, and of course, like these things when done public, they kind of compound and stuff. So yeah, audience is a big unlock, I think, in getting clients. And I would say one thing is that it's easier for you to get clients because you have this credibility stuff online. But I think a very underrated thing of building an audience and having like a reputation online is that you attract people who already like your work. So it's like a lot easier to work with them. It's not like you have cold pitched somebody, promised something and then it doesn't meet the expectations because there's no connection, But like all the freelance gigs which I have gotten have came from like social media. I think there's one exception where I kind of applied because it just felt like super matchy and I just saw it on socials, whatever. But yeah, everything else has came to me like just people DMing me, all these folks, and they already like my work. So it's so much easier to work with them. Plus, when they come to you, you can charge more. So yeah.
Yeah. You also mentioned that I love what you said, how simplicity gives you credibility also, right? So because your work is so simple, immediately gives people credibility. So you mentioned earlier about how you and your wife sat down and spreadsheet, look at the numbers and kind of, look at if you kept your costs the same, what would that look like? And I actually really like the graphic you made, I think recently on Substack, the fundamentals of financial freedom. I thought that was really cool. If you keep your lifestyle upgrades down and your earning go up, then you can kind of get more financial freedom, right? I really like the saying that financial freedom is, if it give you more money, you do exactly the same thing you're doing now, right? So a lot of people kind of miss that, where like they keep upgrading and they just keep spending more. But you're like a concept I spent 30 seconds just now talking about it. You just did it in like 2 seconds, like with the graphics. And the question I want to ask is, a lot of these visuals that you're creating, I get a sense that a lot of it's coming from yourself, like your own personal growth journey, your own fight with perfectionism, your own fight with procrastination, perhaps. I'm guessing, but I see a lot of these themes. I'm curious, as you're creating these visuals, and maybe some of these are coming from your own stories, your own learnings, how much does that help your personal growth journey as you create these visuals?
Yeah, first of all, you are right. Like I would say around at least like 70%. Sometimes I see a good idea. It's maybe I'm super related or whatever. I just have an idea for a good visual, so I will make it, But I would say around 70%, they really do come from mostly from personal experience. And I think that's when people create their best work as well, Nobody would if we would talk theory here, I think people relate a lot more. I think it's the theme of your podcast as well, that you believe stories can change lives and stuff. And I agree. There's this reality to it, relatability. And I would say early on, a theme for my visuals mostly was around creative struggles, because I had this 4 year of being a struggling creator, not making it. And then starting to create these visuals around creative struggles were really relatable. And it actually was at the same time when I was reading parenting books. And a very common theme you will hear in parenting books is, if you want your kids to listen, don't give them advice, acknowledge their feelings first, And I thought about it, and it's oh, that's true, But it's actually true for grown-ups as well, If I come home from a hard day of work, I open the door, I look sluggish or whatever, and my wife looks at me and says, well, you look tired, well, you shouldn't drink beer in the evening. I was I don't want to hear that, Just but if she opens the door, it's oh, honey, you look tired, you had a hard day at work. Yes, I did. And that's a much better way where to start a conversation. So what I did with these visuals, I illustrated a lot of these relatable creative struggles, which I felt, and a lot of people were oh my God, this is so me. Oh yes, I can relate to this so much. And there's a lot of virality in that type of content, but it's just fun to make, and people are having a good laugh, and I think they find it valuable, because they can see themselves in it. But it's a good place to start and start the conversation, and then later, you can sprinkle in more advice or whatever. But nobody likes these gurus, who only share the here's what you need to do, and all the stuff which is just advice driven, I would say. Yeah, I don't know what you were asking. Again, went on a tangent.
I was asking how this creative process, since you're kind of drawing your personal.
Yeah.
How has that helped you grow as a person? Yeah.
It's hard to measure that, It's
right.
hard to say. But there's a lot of reflection in creating that content and kind of looking for those opportunities, It's because a lot of people say whatever, self-awareness is, step one to being more aware or whatever. And I think it kind of just fuels that self-awareness bit, and you just try to be more observant of the stuff, and then illustrating that ideas makes you think about them even more. So I think there's a lot of value just in that process. So it's definitely useful to reflect on your own stuff, and it's a win-win. An audience probably will enjoy it more, especially if you write a piece and weave in your experience. I think people will relate a lot more with that.
Yeah, so I think as creators, when you have an idea, the more you share it, the more you think deeper about it, the more you kind of internalize it as well, right? So I think that's really cool. Yeah.
And there's also the audience feedback,
Right.
A lot of people might say oh no, this is I have the opposite thing because of this and that, and then you're huh, that's interesting, So there's that loop of the audience input as well. So yeah.
Would you say variety is a function of relatedness, simplicity, creativity? Like, what is that formula of virality from what you've seen?
When it comes to virality, I would say there's three things actually. One would be relatability is big. Like when you can relate to things, when you're like, oh, that's so me. Oh my God, yes, it's a good signal for going viral. Another thing which I would say is novelty, and here's where kind of visuals are extremely useful in my opinion. Because you can say like some cliche things like, start the day well and it will be the success for the rest of the day. No, whatever, find your cliche quote or whatever. and if you just write it out, it's like, yeah, it's just another of those things. But if you kind of create an interesting visual out of it, a lot of people will be familiar with that idea, but they will be never familiar with that execution. So the execution itself can feel very novel, and that creates, like, it's same with the do it visual. You said, do it, I don't want to do it scared, It's not like a groundbreaking idea in a sense, but like just that visual harmony and makes it, I think, that much viral than if it would be just, a quote on a quote card or somebody would say that. So yeah, and I guess another thing for virality, but and here I would say that virality is not always good. I think for most things to go really viral, it needs to be more or less mainstream ideas. I think
Gotcha.
you can go viral in your niche community, but with like a niche idea, it's you can go viral in your niche. But like if you just measure the likes, then you need to go like in the like more generic ideas. And here I think people can fall into like a bad place where they try to optimize for likes, but what they should do, they should optimize for like serving their audience they are trying to serve instead of just mass market. Because then if you go mass market and aim for maximum likes, you go kind of mainstream, and there's this saying that like riches are in the niches. There's this is something that Pat Flynn have said. I like that. I like that idea. But which is basically, you just figure out kind of your niche and serve that niche. Okay, that's a whole nother topic. I'm not like great with niche as well. Like I fall into these pitfalls myself. But it's just something I've discovered, that virality will not essentially like correlate with like your income and like newsletter growth and actually gathering the people which you want in your tribe. So make sure, because actually like getting people in your tribe who you don't want to reach is probably not actually a good idea, because they might resonate with that, then subscribe, then absolutely not resonate with your main content, and then you are in this weird situation where like algorithm, might start to think, you have this much followers, but actually nobody cares about your main thing. So what's going on here? So you want to attract people who actually you want to attract.
Yeah. So virality, we talk about relatedness and then novelty. I also like what you said in your course, like simplicity and amplification. Also the other pillars. It's very interesting. I really like what you said, and I think it's very true that, if you want to attract the right people, so virality isn't always good because it attracts a general audience that might not care about your core stuff. And I have a friend who is very good at social media and like has a shit ton of followers. And he told me one thing he does movie reviews. And then one thing he does is every day he uses a bot and he removes followers that don't have a profile picture. Okay.
Wow.
This is very interesting. And he's grown a lot because as you remove these no profile picture people, they're most likely low engagement, right? They don't have a profile picture, right? It could be a bot, it could be whatever. And then, because the algorithm, they look at your content, right? It's not really about how many followers you have, it's about how much engagement you get, right?
Yeah.
Per view. So now that all his followers are more like people who actually engage, then he actually grows faster because of that. It's really counterintuitive. By removing followers, you actually gain more followers faster, the right followers. And then that kind of positive feedback loop.
That's awesome. So I'm taking notes here. That's so smart.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's really good. Yeah, and what you mentioned previously about amplification is another principle which a lot of students find very interesting, because when it comes to visuals, and we often can create visuals and they look just okay, it's fine, I see this is visualized, but like no big deal, whatever, feels quite plain. And that's a good question to ask, like, are we amplifying the idea? And it's like there's some ideas which are so novel, so interesting that you don't need to think about this amplification. Put it aside. No, this is like so good and so novel and interesting and whatever. But for more like plain ideas, for all these like cliche things which you might illustrate, amplification is a really good point. Like how you can add like a little bit more punch to the idea. Is there like a question you might ask, or paint like a picture of, before, after, whatever. I have some interesting visual examples to kind of show this, but it's an important point. When you do visuals and you create more of these cliche things and you feel like it's fine but could be better, amplification can really help.
Do you have a perfectionist tendencies?
Oh my god, big time.
Oh,
especially
really?
like it's actually an interesting story how I decided on my style, because if you look at my visual style, it's very kind of imperfect in a sense,
Yeah.
The lines are a bit quirky and like wiggly, the fillings go outside the lines, the font is a bit wobbly and like handwritten and stuff, and it's actually intentional. And the intention there is like, if you have this perfect style where everything should be aligned like pitch perfect, and you want to maintain this tremendous perfection, the perfection is like thriving and going crazy, and like you try to tweak everything to perfection. But when my style is imperfect, intentionally imperfect, it's a lot more easier for perfectionists to be, okay, this is good because our style is imperfect, this looks a little bit imperfect. We still follow, like, the layout looks good, the text is big enough, like, we follow the basic principles, like, of design. But when the style is imperfect, it's a lot more easier for me to ship and accept, like, the quality. Yes, the quality is there, the quality is good. For example, when I have some freelance clients where I have worked and they had more requirements for more, like, perfect style, I'm spending way more time in the production part to actually polishing the visual. I have the concept ready, but to make it, like, as they please, it takes me a lot more time. So there is value in having this kind of imperfect style. So here I will go again on a tangent, but for people who are maybe considering visualization, and maybe if they want to illustrate books, or they want to use visualizations in their presentations, in social media sharing and stuff, I would really make you question what is your goal. Because if, like me, whatever, I wanted such style, I was thinking that I want to teach this to others, I maybe didn't thought I want to illustrate books, but it was on my mind. So you need to get to a certain quality of style, which I have. Like, as you can see, I have illustrated books, it have led to some success, it's all good. But if you are just a person who wants to communicate ideas, you don't give a shit about how they look, then I would encourage you really to embrace maybe style, as Tim Urban has these extremely cartoony, like 5-year-old drawings, intentionally just ugly, like a 5-year-old has drawn them, because it's a lot easier to make them, but you communicate the idea equally well. The communication part is the same. I would say even if you go super fancy and make like extreme art out of your communicative visual, I would say it's less clear than somebody would just draw, the circles and draw everything with a marker in super simple, plain style. So the communication still is there with the same style. Just one style will maybe get more you design opportunities and get you hired and whatever. But if you only want to communicate ideas, feel free to keep it as ugly and scrappy as you want. Nobody cares. I would say even these days when there is so much AI generated slop, like, people really appreciate hand-drawn, ugly. They clearly saw that you went into your Apple Notes and just scribbled something and you try to communicate. Like, there is people might these days appreciate that even more, because there is this human side of things, oh, this was made by human. So it's just important to understand these things and these differences, I think, and it can help.
Yeah, and I think you observe similar trends of videos, right? Like, you see these like really polished cinematic videos people make, and then someone makes this video of like a phone and it's like, and it goes absolutely viral, right? Like, sometimes people appreciate that realness, that authenticity. And I think you do that too with your visuals. And like you mentioned in your course, like, I think it's very interesting how you say imperfection. It's like being imperfectly perfect, right? There's the parts that the imperfection actually works in your advantage. And then there are the perfection parts that you mentioned in your course, like the layout, the harmony, like the simple idea. The idea is good. Like draw however you want, right? The lines squiggly, it doesn't really matter. The idea is good. And then you have color contrast, white space, and then you're keeping it simple. Hierarchy and all that. Like so within the visual there are things that are important that should be perfect, like those principles. But then there are things that absolutely can be authentic, can be real, can be imperfect, and that actually works in your favor. The question I want to ask is, you've been working a lot like on your stuff and also other people's stuff, right? And with that, I imagine like it's a little bit easier when you work on your own concepts because it's coming from you intrinsically. Whereas if you're doing a book, it's like, okay, this person has this idea. Now I need to first internalize it. And now I need to find metaphors, inspiration, relatedness. And then I need to visualize it, right? So as you're going through the process of doing your own work and other people's books and works, how is that different? And do you ever go through like creative burnout? That was a big question.
It's a really good question. I think it's a really good question. The honest answer here is kind of interesting because obviously, if I need to produce my own visuals for social media, I can make them rather quickly, and just ship it. Mm-hmm. There is one negative side. If I'm trying to do it fast, I might rely a lot on, I created this previously, let me iterate, let me apply some different idea. And I sometimes I do it, because obviously, like, the more I post, the more people find me, the more it fuels my business. It's a little bit of business, that kind of consistency does work. But I can take shortcuts there and like, okay, yeah, I made this, it's awesome. And sometimes I think it's not that great, but whatever, I ship it and then the audience like really appreciates it. And I'm like, holy shit, So it kind of gives me the feeling of, sometimes even if you think it's not that great, ship it. Maybe your people will appreciate it. Just go with it. But with the books, there is one thing which I really enjoy of doing freelance is that, yes, I read the chapter, I read the idea, and then I go a lot more thoroughly through the whole process, and I generate like there's three big parts in the process. One is you have your initial idea, whatever, pick a quote, a thought you have, and doesn't matter, some initial idea that you want to communicate. The next thing is like this brainstorming kind of process where first thing you do, you generate a lot more text elements, what I call, if your original idea might be, success starts early in the morning, let's say, whatever, some cliche. What you start to do is that, okay, what is going on there? You start to generate some text elements. Okay, there is evening, there is morning, there is what happens if it's a successful, or what happens if it's unsuccessful? What could make it bad? What makes it good? What is some bad things that people feel when they wake up early, whatever? And you just start to dump out, no blank page syndrome, just ship it, anything that comes to mind. And there are certain questions I ask, which helps you with the brainstorm. And now you can use AI as well to help you. Though I would recommend leave the AI for a bit later, to help you with the brainstorm. But initially try to really look into your soul and mind, to come up with these text elements. And now you are looking at a lot more like kind of ideas and concepts, and you can start to take these whatever sticky notes or wherever you write this, and you start to apply these visual elements, and then those text elements and visual elements, you kind of start to stick them together. Okay, maybe this comparison can make here. Oh, there is some growth pattern I see. Oh, how we could amplify this actually makes sense, but let's add this, So there is you go through this gibberish, random, crazy brainstorming process. And very often, at the end, of course, you kind of visualize, you make the final visual, and I have this checklist of, which we discussed a lot about, like novelty, amplification. You question all these things, you kind of rate your visual, and then you refine it to the very end, so it's really clear and awesome. But by working with authors and these different ideas, I work so much harder to come up with all these things that very often I come with like very novel and very interesting concepts. While when I create for myself, I'm a little bit more lazy, because, oh yeah, this is fine, I'm the approval. But with other people ideas, and for me, I might have an idea which I want to illustrate, but it's a bit tough one. It's like hard to figure really out, it's a bit harder. And I would need to go through this process, which is a bit more tedious and I might just go for the simple thing, grab a template and create something. So it's not always tedious, but it's like you kind of push yourself more with freelance, and it often gets you into like a very interesting places. And yeah, but it goes a lot to last thing, like it goes a lot to the how busy you are as well. At the moment I have a lot of things going on. I'm quite busy, so I'm a bit more lazy maybe with my own content. But when I have a lot of free time, oh my God, I will sit down, whatever, in the porch, take an iPad or a sketchpad, doesn't matter whatever I have, and I really take time, and it's a very fun, fulfilling process. With freelance, it's more, you still go through the same process, you just try to work a little bit faster, because for obvious reasons. So yeah, that's kind of the difference. But yeah, there's pros and cons in all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk a lot about like simplicity, right? Thinking clearly. How can people think more clearly? Because I feel like being able to create a simple visual is one skill, very important skill to have. But I think the prerequisite of that is being able to think clearly in simple terms, right? I feel like that's something that even if you're not doing visuals, something people can benefit from, right? Do you feel like you have that special ability somehow to just able to think very clearly in simple ways? It sounds like you have a process and framework to do that, right?
That is a good question. I don't think I do have the ability to think clearly, but I think I do have this fundamental down to the earth approach sometimes to things. Like, whatever, I'm going maybe on a tangent with a client, and we are trying to figure out this concept, and I see like we are like all over the place and not really making sense. I'm like, okay, let's stop, let's go back. What the hell we are trying to communicate here? When an audience see this visual in the book or in the social media, what we want them to feel or whatever. And like a question like that can really help you break it down. Okay, now we can like start these things which we have created start to make more sense, So yeah, that's I guess how I would describe that.
Now that you've gone through so many awesome collaborations and became so popular, social media, and you have your awesome course going as well in around the world and now in Taiwan, what do you feel like are some of your highlights in your life? What it feels like a highest point or maybe lowest point? Or I guess what point did you feel the most fulfillment? Was it like a turning point? That one milestone where you really just like, wow, this is it,
Now, I would say, like, honestly, the three things which I mentioned earlier on, like family, freedom, and like creativity / curiosity, we can kind of grab both of them. But I think when I'm in a place where I feel like awesome, like kids are healthy, we are having great family life and relationships and stuff, and eating good food and all that sort of thing, like good family life. Having like the freedom, which, as I mentioned in that visual, it's correlated, of course, a lot with the financial freedom. If there is enough money in the bank account, if I don't feel like I need to work, today just to cover the bills, that's a beautiful place to be. And then just, yeah, if you have that, then you probably will have some free time to really sit back, learn and like go into this personal growth stuff and create these visuals, create content, serve your community. It's a very happy place for me. So I'm definitely very happy where and how I've got here. So it's amazing. I still have a long way to go, to get to the ultimate place, and I'm learning a lot. Some struggles, I don't know. I think one interesting thing with client work, it's like, obviously there is this process and there is this kind of ABC approach to do things, and it works. I can, like, even if I'm super uninspired, you can give me an assignment to illustrate these ideas. If I will kind of follow the process, I will have an output. But it's nice when you are in like a really good space, you feel very like creative and nice and fulfilled, and you create better work. So it's interesting where I sometimes when I work with clients and I maybe have a little bit more than them, I have this feeling in the morning, God damn it, like I would wish, that my job today would be to dig a ditch where you know how much like you need to dig, and it's a very clear assignment and you can just do it A to Z. But with this kind of creative work, but when you still have to produce the output, and you don't really know how much it will take all the time, and it's like a little bit uncertainty. And sometimes there is like an evening comes and you need to ship something to the client, and you're like, still, God damn it, I don't have it, and then you're in this creative space, which is like, it's a bit mystical, there's some uncertainty, which is both beautiful and sometimes hard.
Yeah. How do you get out that? You ever get like they have the writer's block, but I don't know if you have that the visuals block. Is that even a thing?
I would say it can be a thing, but it's like there's two ways how you can approach it. One way is you can just work through it. Just get to work, put your ass down and do some work. And you will get some sort of output, I think one important thing which I recommend to all students is have a lot of ideas you work on at the same time, so you can bounce between them. You feel stuck on this one, jump to another one. Cool, So that is really useful. I would say these days it's harder to get stuck as well, because you can bring like AI into the brainstorming process as well. You can, I have my cheat sheets and I can prompt AI, hey, like rate this visual based on whatever these 8 things, rate it from 1 to 10 in each of those categories, and then it will give you some comments, and a lot of them will be like bullshit and very like not really accurate or whatever, but it gets your brain going, and you kind of can keep moving forward. Like AI is this really nice like brainstorming partner, I would say, to kind of work things. It's not like it's just helping you kind of move forward, but you can go into a lot of bad places with it as well. You can, if you get too crazy with it, it can produce a lot of slop, as we like to call.
Yeah.
But another thing which I wanted to say is that often I think I've been a creator long enough where I know that it's really it fluctuates. There is moments when you are like feel uncreative and like, this big imposter syndrome, and like you feel like crap and whatever, and it's just you get to that place. But you've been in those places so many times that it will fade, it will pass, whatever. You feel like you need to take a break today, go surfing, go for a walk, don't work today, go watch your Netflix show, or what's your poison, and just it will come back. And it usually, for me, it has come back every time. So it's normal to take breaks. You don't need to work yourself to the ground. There's many ways how to approach this, but to me at least, yeah, take a break or just work through it.
Wow. I guess two extremes, right? Either you just power through it or you just like walk away.
Yeah. Most of the times I would say if I have the option, I walk away. If I of course have like freelance deadlines and stuff,
Right.
like I will work through it, obviously. But
Right.
if I'm in like not much clients, not much to do, whatever. Let's take today off. Why we are doing this in the first place? To have that freedom,
Yeah, let's talk about freedom a little bit, because we talk about freedom a lot. And then you mentioned you read the 4-Hour Workweek. You wanted to have that nomadic life, and now you sort of. I get the impression that you kind of travel around the world a little bit. You're in Spain right now. Is that where you live? Do you move around a lot? What is freedom to you done when you read, the 4-Hour Workweek first, to now when you've gone through that creative struggle, gone through the process, have a family, and then have more freedom in creative ways, and also like professionally you have more freedom that way too, right? Doing freelance work and doing your course. How has freedom evolved for you over time?
Yeah, I would say when I read it, it just sounds very compelling and dreamy. And I think I was already a little bit past the point where it depends where you are in life. If I wouldn't be in like serious relationships or whatever, then I would be this whatever lone wolf, I would definitely, it would be tremendously fun, to travel the world, go to Taiwan, work from there, meet people there for like 4 or 5 months, see what's there, go whatever, go to Australia. Okay, not Australia. I'm afraid of snakes. Go to somewhere else. But that sounds very, very fun and interesting. But I was already kind of, I think, past that point, and I did got quite a lot of this traveling from the corporate world, because I was doing a lot of business trips, which was like kind of fun, and you get a little bit of that taste of other cultures and stuff. But now the freedom is still kind of the same, but I am more settled down. I am Latvian, so I've been living in Latvia for all my life, which was 30 plus years. Now I'm 35, and for the past almost 3 years we have moved to Spain. So I live in Spain with my wife and 2 kids. And obviously with kids, and now they have started school, I will not travel the world because it's a lot more like difficult, with all that sort of stuff. When kids need to go to school, and it's not like I really want to. I would say the freedom now is still to be in a place where kids have holidays for 2 weeks and we can just whatever pick a place on the map and just go there. That would be a form of freedom now, and it's more like, can I work when I want, work where I want, which of course is not really needed right now as I'm more settling down here in Spain, and obviously I will not change places all the time because kids are in school and stuff. But work with people who I want, and when I want, like that sort of freedom, so I have the creative freedom to wake up in the morning and like, what the hell I want to do today, and then just do that. Want to vibe code some new project, go, let's have at it. That's the freedom for me today.
Yeah. Ever since you've had kids, do you feel like that has influenced your creativity? Because kids can sometimes be distracting, but also, hey, there's they come with this inherent simplicity of, pureness of a kid, right? This is a really random question, but have you, is there any correlation there at all?
Kids, no. Well, it's very interesting. It's definitely interesting to observe kids and how their brain works and how creative they are. Like this morning, again, I was waking up, I wake up back then in 4:30, but now for the past month I have started to wake up 4:30 again and kind of go to bed early with my wife and wake up at 4:30. I feel great. So I woke up today at 4:30. Obviously kids tend to wake up early as well, especially when I have intended to do work in the morning. So they woke up before 6 a little bit, both of them. And they're like in the kitchen sitting with me and they say, "Daddy, do you want pizza?" I say, "Okay, yes, sure, I want pizza." So they grab paper, they take scissors, they cut out a circle, they quickly paint some salamis and stuff on it. And it's like, "Here's your pizza." And it's like, it's so interesting how scrappy it is and just impulsive and imperfect. And it's like, that's an interesting thing you can observe in kids. But I don't know, with kids and parenting and all this creative work, it's kind of it's interesting in a sense, where these days, like, I really question and I think, like, it's hard to say this because you're not this, it's just different. But back in the days, when you didn't have all these obligations, thought, "Oh my God, I'm so slammed, I don't have time for anything." And now you actually see like how ineffective you were back in the days and that it's all bullshit. So that's like one interesting observation. I don't know. I think with having kids, it's amazing, and you get some of the dad energy, which is really, really dope. And I don't know. I think it helps you a little bit to kind of cut out the bullshit of all the stuff you do. There's a lot of fluff and bullshit and just like fucking color coding your to-do list or whatever, which doesn't have any sort of like value. So it helps, I think, you a little bit with prioritization, but it's not easy. So I don't know. But at the same time, I've always find this fascinating how my oldest son now is 8. And it was kind of at the same time when my wife got pregnant with him, that was the time when I started even to question the online business thing. That was the first moment. Then when my wife was pregnant with the second kid, that was when we made the move from the 9 to 5, taking the creator leap. So it's interesting how all these things are connected. So it's like,
wow.
I don't know if there's any correlation, whatever, but I don't know. Had one kid, got the desire. Had the second kid, quit my 9 to 5. I don't know. Maybe we'll have the third kid. We'll make my first million. So, who knows? So I'm just having a laugh, but I don't know.
No, there's maybe something to it.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I'm waiting I'm curious when my oldest son will get to a point where he can like kind of start to do more of the things with computer and stuff. I would love to like get him and start to build like stuff for me, so both he gets the taste of like how it is to like kind of build a business, and I can use him and he can learn pocket money and stuff. So it's in my mind, like kids are resources to be leveraged later on as well.
And they're so creative, right? That pizza idea you talked about, that's actually really cool. I'm thinking about that. That's so cute. Yeah.
Now he asks me, Daddy, can I help you with business? And of course, there's not a lot of things he can do. So like, yeah, sure, you can help me come up with visual concepts. And I gave him, Kevin Kelly. I think he was the founder of Wired or whatever.
Okay.
But he has this book, I think, some whatever random ideas for life, some sort of book like that, which is basically
excellent advice for living. That one.
Exactly, that book. So I have that book, and it basically has like it's a quote, an idea per page, like a super simple small book, but really cool. He just takes that book and like reads and try to illustrate those ideas and comes up with some stuff. And yeah, he came up with few interesting like concepts and templates. So it's interesting.
Wow, that's the ultimate real hack right there. Just outsource to your kids.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
Most of them now. Make them earn their pocket money and Christmas.
It's a win-win. It's a big win-win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to also ask you some more life questions. I think we're getting to that point here. Do you have any favorite books? We talked about 4-Hour Work Week. We talked about excellent advice for living. Any other books you want to share, or movies?
Well, I would say The Next Conversation by Jefferson Fisher is definitely a useful book that will serve you for life in terms of like having conversations and how to deal with arguments and just life stuff like that. I think he's great. There was another book which I'm about to finish illustrating, but I can't obviously talk about it because it's not public. It will just come out in a year or so. But I think I will recommend that book a lot because it's more like this productivity type of book. And just to give some context, in general, my process is very messy. I'm quite all over the place, not really systemized and stuff. But that book helped me to think better about kind of systems and stuff. And just now I kind of try to build my whole thing in Notion as well right now. And one of the reasons what have really motivated me, obviously, is AI. Because now AI, can read data. And I feel like if AI has the context of all the stuff I'm working on, and it knows all the things and iterations of my landing page and stuff, go figure that the sky is the limit there. But it's like, it can be, I think, a very useful like partner, and function like an assistant. So I try to be more structured with how I do ideas, and schedule stuff and take notes. So just try to kind of reinvent that process so I can leverage, I think, AI a little bit more. That's like a thing. But I don't know, other books. The Almanac of Naval Ravikant is great, but like kind of start with the Naval Ravikant, How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky Twitter thread. It's amazing. It's short, like no excuse not to read it.
Yeah.
It's very powerful, I would say, if you are interested in this sort of world. I do like Derek Sivers as well. He's Sivers.com. He's a great guy. His advice is interesting. I don't agree with everything that he's saying, but I really like his book, which is called How to Get Anything You Want. It's basically his story of building a business. It's extremely short. It's like audiobook is, I think, 1 hour, 30 minutes, but it's like, it feels very on point, that there is no fluff in that book. It's very short, it's very on point, very nice.
He has that famous quote, hell yes or nothing, that I really like.
Yeah.
I'm curious. That sounds like a great idea to visualize.
I would say hell yeah or no. Yeah, it's a good idea. But again, with all of these, and with my visuals, I think especially like what I often get, and which is, of course, completely welcome, when you distill something down to its essence. Like, they're so easy to misinterpret that thing, and you can apply hell yes or no in one context and it will be a shitty advice, and you can apply hell yes and no in another context and it will be great advice. So it's true. Really, I think, important where you kind of apply those things. Hell yeah or no definitely is an idea too. I have a lot of cool ideas, but yeah, I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I think recently depends on my mood, depends what I'm kind of into, but I do like My First Million, where it's like Sean Puri, which I have worked for. They kind of discuss, the latest and greatest things in terms of like business and stuff, and it's just interesting. It's more like hanging out with the bros podcast,
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are all the mainstream podcasts, but those I don't watch like religiously. But I'm just like, oh, I'm really interested in this guest, so I will watch those episodes, where I'm interested in the guest.
Okay.
Some other podcasts. I do like How I Write by David Perel. It's like he mostly talks with like various different writers, and they discuss their creative process. How
that's
they
really
write and
cool.
Stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not more, it's usually just, oh, what's your life story and stuff, but he really dives deep into the creative process. So I find that like interesting, because I have my creative process, so it's interesting to hear how other people work and stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's very different though for writers and visual graphic people, right? Like, there's this book, I'm not sure if you read it, it's called On Writing by Stephen King. It's basically his memoir.
My wife read it like a week ago.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't read it, but my wife did read it.
One of Stephen King's quote, I think you appreciate it, is he says, "Kill your darlings, kill your darlings." Have you heard that before? I think you've
Heard that, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically saying that like the process of writing, the creative process, not just writing, is the hardest part is deleting. And I think you do that too with your visuals. Right? You create something and then you just simplify it until the very essence is left. And that's what he says, like, kill your darlings, even if it hurts your egotistic little heart. Kill your darlings.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's hard. I think
and so Naval does that really well too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what helps there is getting feedback from like whatever. My visuals, I will just ask my wife or a friend, hey, do you get this? Like, is this clear? And if I see they scratch head, I see maybe there's too much clutter, or they're like, nah, you can get from those first initial impressions, like, okay, maybe there's something wrong here. Or you can ask like, is this necessary there? And that is one of those darlingy thingies which you have there. I really, really love this. And they're like, no, it's useless. Don't care about it at all. And you're like, okay, must delete, So I think feedback is useful there.
Do you ever ask your kids? Because I feel like they can give even maybe better feedback, right?
I have asked. It's a good thing. Because usually I don't work when they are around, So, but I should actually. That's a great idea. I should ask my kids. I already. Yeah. I wrote down about the removing followers. That's a cool thing I want to explore. I definitely want to remove some of my followers.
Yeah. That's like the Feynman technique, right? They say if you can explain to a 5-year-old or 8-year-old, then it means you really understand it, or that it's really good at your explanation is really good, or your visual is really good. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So last question is, how do you define success and happiness and love?
Success, happiness, and love.
Yeah. What do those things mean to you now?
Well, I guess we almost kind of covered that, with the
freedom
family
part.
and the freedom stuff. That's really, that does feel like success to me, and I really
Probably
can't
happiness
complain.
too,
I think
right?
I think I'm so grateful, like, for my life and the relationships I have with my wife. I feel like I'm in a really, really good place, and I try not to take those things for granted, because you can hear a lot of stories where people have like tremendous amount of financial success, but their relationships with kids and wife is like absolute mess. So I try to like really hold on to those things and not take them for granted. And I feel like I am in a really good place. I think, as I said, for the like past 6 months, I tried to put on the business hat on, and try to kind of create systems and figure out how to maybe scale this and get to more like predictable state where I don't need to rely on freelance that much, to cover all the bills. I think that's like the biggest piece of the puzzle which I'm trying to solve right now, to get like in an even better place. So the freedom aspect of those things really thrive. But I would say I'm pretty happy, and I'm in a pretty good relationship. Sure, there are things to improve, but I think those values which explained are true to me, and if I will try to follow them, I will be in a good place. So I guess it's not the answer for anyone, but I think to kind of figure out your values, because for some people want, I don't really want family. I want to build like the next freaking unicorn or whatever, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You do you, I will do me. So just figure out what the hell you want from life and just kind of get after it. So I think I know what I want from life. Big part have kind of got there, but there's still some work to do, and I try to get there. So yeah.
I love it, man. I love your humility and you're such a down to earth guy. So it's really great chatting with you. And I have to ask one last thing. I usually ask people this: if you can put a billboard on the moon, what would they write? But for you, the question is, what would you draw on the moon?
I don't draw. I actually have words I would love to put there.
Oh, okay, we can do that.
They are not my words, and I have visual for it, and it has actually done super well and gone viral. But it would be just hard to explain it like verbally. But I think it is one of my favorite ideas, and an idea that have helped me get through life, through some hard moments. And it's actually from this influencer, kind of high performance coach guy called Brendon Burchard. He has some good books as well, by the way. But one of his quotes is, "Believe in your abilities to figure things out." And what I love about that quote is that I'm not a fan of, these maybe affirmations where you stand in front of the mirror and say like, I'm rich, but you know that in your bank account you have like $50, and you're like can't make your payments and stuff. So you're kind of lying and being delusional about these things. But I think the words "believe in your abilities to figure things out" hold this tremendous power, because you're not lying to yourself. Like, I can go back in history. There was a time when I was learning how to drive, when I was at the steering wheel and like, holy crap, like I'm not sure what to do here. This is like, I will never learn this. And there's so many things from the past where you have felt those moments, but you tried and you learned, and now are you freaking driving and eating a hot dog, and in the other hand you have a smartphone, not recommended, but a lot of people do that. So use that proof, from the past. And kind of, if there are some things which you kind of feel the itch to do, may it be like visuals, may it be building an online business or whatever, just take that proof and believe in your abilities that you can figure this new thing out as well. That would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even a better example than driving is your own story, right? And like going through the creative struggle for like 4 years, 5 years, and then figuring it out through YouTube, writing, to doing these amazing visuals for some of the best authors and entrepreneurs, business minds in the world. So your own story is the best proof of that.
Yeah, thanks. But I think it's important that people can look at their own like past, and I'm sure they can map out, it's true. There was time when I thought this thing was absolutely not possible, but I actually did try it, and now I feel like easy. And it can be the thing for many things. So yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right, Janis, I think I asked all the questions I wanted to ask you. This has been an amazing, almost an hour and 40 minutes talking about your story, the really essence ideas about, how you make good visuals, how do you effectively communicate. And, you said you're not really a disciplined person, but you wake up at 4:30 every day, going through that process. You're a very humble person. I'll say that. You definitely worked really hard to get to where you are, and like you said earlier, like there's more you want to do, but you're also very happy. I think that's a very key, important trait for having the right mindset, right? Like a lot of people just want more, and they never know when to stop, and enjoy what they have, the wife, the kids, the freedom, and just enjoy that moment, be happy, wake up and go on the porch with your iPad. Like moments like those are very important, and you're able to, both strive for more, but also staying humble, staying grounded, and staying present with what you have. And I find that very, very inspiring. So I took away a lot from this conversation, a lot of inspiration, and a lot of things I want to apply, mindset I want to apply to my life. And and I want to also thank you for all the visuals you created in the past. So they definitely helped me in my life. So to be able to like kind of hear about your story with you directly is also very fulfilling for me. So yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jackie. It's been a blast talking with you. You're awesome.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. And if you ever come to Taiwan, please let me know. I'd love to show you around.
Likewise. Likewise, if you end up in Alicante, please hit me up, and I would love to visit Taiwan, so I will for sure hit you up whenever I get there.
Yeah, and last thing is, you have a course coming out on Pressplay, and I just want to give you the rest of the time to, promote it and share anything you want to share, anything that we missed during the conversation, and yeah, maybe let's end with that.
Now, yeah, like as you've heard from the story, I've been doing this for several years, and I have a global audience and stuff, and I do all my thing in English for the global market. But Pressplay did reach out to me. They thought there's a lot of demand for this type of skill in Taiwan. People who want to improve their presentations, so want to like do better socials and stuff. So we partnered, and yeah, I have now a course with them on Pressplay that you can check it out, and it has all that in your language, which is awesome. So yeah, I hope to see you there, and then there I basically cover all the process in great detail and give like behind the scenes and examples. So if anything that sounded interesting from the conversation, I would love to see you there. And then just yeah, I think same as with good writing, it really is a skill for life. Like you might end up on a place, with a whiteboard, and you need to sketch some thoughts. It's kind of similar as writing. I would say you can really, the sky is the limit where you can actually apply this skill. Yeah, I'll leave it there. If it sounds interesting, see you there. And again, Jackie, thank you so much for the conversation. You're absolutely awesome. You definitely increased my level to visit Taiwan. It has moved up in my bucket list items where I want to go. So thanks, man. It's been absolutely great.
Taiwan is very family friendly, so I think your kids will love it. Your wife will love it too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
Okay, Jackie, well, thanks, man. You're awesome. You're absolutely
you too.
Cool, and congrats on your success thus far, and keep crushing, man.
Thank you. Oh man, that means a lot. Appreciate it. All right, Janis.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. 谢谢大家收听这一期跟Janis精彩访谈。我很喜欢他最后在说的，就是我们都要相信自己有能力去解决问题。We have to believe in ourselves and our ability to figure things out. 就遇到任何问题，当下可能不知道怎么办，但我们一定都有办法可以找到解决的方法。那他的创作过程经历4年的挣扎，到最后到现在这么的成功，我觉得他的故事也非常的励志，然后也真的是教我们怎么样去克服我们的完美主义。很多时候，完美的不完美总比不完美的完美还好。OK， 好，那刚刚有分享，就是我们明年会有一波淀粉的自我成长的大家庭的一个新的计划，这边跟大家细说，我们会有12个月的时间，然后从10月22号启动，然后我会希望会花这1年的时间，帮助大家每个人找到自己的自我成长的系统，你的指南针，让你在未来不只是明年，而是在每一年都有一个系统，都有一个指南针，可以回去看你的核心价值、核心原则、核心使命。我自己在2019年的时候做了这样的练习之后，其实我的核心价值到今天一直都没有变。我之前跟大家分享过，核心价值是正直 （integrity） 跟 positivity 正向跟 freedom 自由所以我做所有事情跟我之后做的事情的原则、核心原则跟我的核心使命，我实际上做出来的东西，像 podcast、像咖啡店、像是 chill， 都是符合我的核心价值跟照着我的核心原则去做。所以在做事情的时候，我就有更多的一个方法，让我可以减少需要思考或是需要去被一些有的没有的东西烦恼，因为我清楚知道自己是谁，怎么做事，然后进而知道自己该做什么，想做什么。那这一切就很清楚，那也真的是帮我省了很多迷茫或是失落或是不知道自己在干嘛的一些可能。那我觉得就是自我成长很重要的元素是我们需要有方向，所以有个指南针给你方向。我们需要养分，所以每个月我都会分享一本书，然后会跟大家线上分享，然后跟大家互动问问题，然后给大家问卷去思考，然后也鼓励大家跟我一起阅读，然后这些每一本书我选的都是对我自我成长很大很大帮助的书，然后我会帮大家分组，让大家可以不只是输入也输出所以有这样每个月的养分跟其他人互动很重要，也是有陪伴、有伙伴、有连结，因为自己自我成长一个人真的是没有那么简单，但是一群人真的可以走得更远那雷丘淀粉特别可以跟我，就是每个月我们都会有个 Q&A， 就是去讨论那个月的书 所以这是雷球淀粉才有的。那一般淀粉大家也欢迎加入，就是我们可以帮大家分组，每个月不同的淀粉，所以大家可以趁机认识很多不同，都是喜欢自我成长，都是有自己的梦想、理念、目标，正向动力的人。那我觉得在这样的环境之下，真的是你身边是什么样的人，你自然未来的走道或是未来的方向取向就会因此有这么一点或是很大，我自己觉得是很大很大的差别 ，right？ 因为人家说你是你身边5个人的聚合，所以在身边多放一些这些都有目标、有梦想、正向，然后真诚，可以创造一个安全的环境，让你可以更好的自我成长。所以明年的计划呢，就是12个月，然后希望大家是给大家最大成长的一年。除了有方向、有养分，然后刚刚说的有陪伴，那这陪伴不只是说 OK， 我们一起成长，而是说，当我们成长遇到挫折、挑战的时候，有这样的一个社群，有一个小队可以把你接住，可以在你需要鼓励的时候鼓励你，或是在你做一些事情需要支持的时候支持你。然后刚刚讲过，就是明年因为我们会花更多的时间去经营这个自我成长的这个系统跟这个社群，所以我们也会涨价一波，也希望可以反映出我们社群的价值。那大家如果趁今年，特别是12月22号以前加入的话，就维持今年的价钱。所以我觉得明年会是我们人生最棒的一年。我总是有这种傻傻的直觉，但我觉得都很准。就是如果我们抱着这样的一个想法，抱着这样的心态去面对每一年，我觉得每一年都会是我们最好的一年。就算遇到什么挑战，就是刚刚 Janis 姐说的 ，Even if you're scared, you still do it scared。然后相信自己有可以 figure it out 的能力，那我们都会大家一起帮助你相信自己，也帮助你一起 help you figure it out。OK，so 欢迎加入我们，那我们线上淀粉社群里面见。OK，see you soon， 拜拜。
加入淀粉2-3年了，以前我不太敢就在3个人以上的聚会上面说话，加入以后就是开始愿意在大家面前说话，愿意真的说出自己不喜欢的是什么，然后认识很多的淀粉，想要就是让生活都变得更喜欢的样子的人，觉得是一个很不错的群体。
在跟人相处的时候，我发现我不用再过多的想要去 show off 我自己。加入淀粉大家庭的每个人之后，我发现我其实当一个倾听者，我收获是更多的。然后在每个人的分享当中，我是因为很有兴趣他的议题，然后再丢问题后发现，大家的都很有内涵，水很深，有没有？
我是从2022年的10月加入淀粉的。加入最大的改变就是，我觉得我的说话变得比较慢了，然后脾气变得比较好，应该说比较有包容心这样。
加入淀粉时间大概2个月的时间，然后我觉得因为在淀粉社群会遇到的人都不是过去的生活圈嘛，所以比较不会聚焦在关系连接这些事情上面，反而是会因为议题、兴趣还有想法去结交朋友，然后可以更好的分享这些感受。
我是在疫情的时候，就是2021年的时候加入淀粉，我自己觉得是一个很棒的旅程，因为在这边认识很多好朋友。最大的不同，我觉得是有更多的勇气做自己想做的事情。当我想做什么事的时候，我第一个念头会是说，我要做吗？是我想要的吗？那要我就去做，而不是说，我会不会做不到？
我今年1月才加入，然后我觉得到目前最大的收获就是这里的人都能量很够，然后可以让我想到很多东西，例如之前的咖啡厅交流，然后就跟不同人聊天，然后可以激发自己的很多想法。
我加入淀粉超过了1年，到今年的8月就2年。觉得最大的收获是我开始重视自己的生活步调，然后会开始去调整一些自己的生活作息，然后也开始真的会去想自律这件事情，然后也在这里交到非常多好朋友，所以我很期待下一次的淀粉活动。